Shalom, here is Psalm 110. Of David, a psalm. The Lord, capital L, said to my Lord, small l, sit at my right hand while I make your enemies your footstool. The Lord will stretch forth from Zion your mighty scepter, hold sway over your enemies. Your people come forward willingly on your day of battle, in majestic holiness from the womb, from the dawn. Yours was the dew of youth. The Lord has sworn and will not relent. You are a priest forever, a rightful king by my decree. The Lord is at your right hand. He crushes kings in the day of his anger. He works judgment upon the nations, heaping up bodies, crushing heads far and wide. He drinks from the stream on his way. Therefore, he holds his head high. Notwithstanding the rather strange ending of this psalm and the gruesome image of verse 6, I think that the message of this psalm is fairly clear. The writer obviously puts himself in a position of venerating his Lord, not only with a capital L, but small l, the king whom he admires. So this could be David or a David-like king, or it could be an image of a messianic king or ruler to come in the messianic age. Not 100% clear. But it is true that the psalmist puts the king on a pedestal and confers upon him special status because, as the psalmist claims, the Lord has already done that very thing. From the king's womb, from his youth, he has been deemed special and unique. His majesty, his majestic holiness has been from his womb, from the youth until now, and is meant to be permanent. The king has a very special place in the world. The king somehow stands in between regular mortals and the supreme being. And the writer here clearly wants to exalt the king and laud him and praise him with the hope that the king will be victorious against his enemies always. But one image I think is worth noting here, and that is, and it is repeated twice, the idea of sit at my right hand, shave limini, and then in verse 5, Adonai al yamincha, the Lord, capital L, is at your right hand. So the right hand, yamin, in Hebrew, is often understood as a force for moral goodness, for moral right. Right, namely right-handed, right, morality as well. Small, the Hebrew for left, is sometimes understood as the opposite of right, namely sinister and even evil. Where does that leave someone like myself who is left-handed? I feel like I've gotten biblical short shrift for my whole life since I've been a lefty since childhood. Not fair. I don't see what's wrong with lefties. But anyway, in the Bible, it seems clear that right hand is what you want to be, and you want to be sitting at the right hand, symbolically or image-wise, the right hand of God. Left is where you don't want to be. And perhaps that is one reason why several generations ago it was not uncommon for parents when they noticed that their children were developing to become left-handed, that they would forcibly switch them to be right-handed because it was felt that being left-handed was something sinister and maybe even evil. Coming back to the image of the psalmist's veneration and exaltation of the king, I think it's important to remember that now, as I record this, at the beginning of September, we are in the thick of a political election season, highlighted by a presidential election, but also there will be many other elections for the Senate, of course, many more even for the House of Representatives. And we look to our leaders to be forces of right. And we look to them to be moral forces in our society. We do understand that politics can be a compromising affair, and that there are times when politicians have to use questionable means to justify particular ends. And that is just the real world as it is in politics. But when it comes to the one who rises above all others, that is the president of our country. And this also goes for presidents or prime ministers of other countries as well, especially democracies. We look for them to be forces of moral rectitude. We don't expect and we don't endorse the idea of any president who says one thing and does another, or purposely misleads his public to achieve a certain aim, or is only out for his own personal power and prestige. In this psalm, the king is lifted above the people by divine right. God has conferred that right on this king from the womb. But that is only true as long as that king sits by God's right hand and continues to follow the teachings and principles of the Torah. The king is not all-powerful. The king must abide by divine rules. And so too in our country and in our democracy, our president and our other prominent leaders need to follow and abide by the rules and principles of the Constitution of the United States of America. And when we choose our leaders, we need to do so knowing or trusting that these leaders will do their best to follow the Constitution and to set a path that is morally right and that is a president who will set a proper example, whom others can follow and venerate and look up to and respect. These are some of the factors that we ought to consider when we cast our votes on Election Day, just a few months from now. The psalmist helps to give us the proper direction and guidance, but the psalmist, the Torah, and the Bible can only help set the path before us. It is up to us to act accordingly. Thank you.